Charlie, thank you. In an exclusive news conference, Governor Tony Evers revealed a new budget proposal ahead of the upcoming budget session. Our state capitol bureau chief, Vanessa Kelson, was in the room and has more on Evers' plans.
Currently, Wisconsin voters can't propose new state laws through referendums at the ballot box. Governor Evers hopes to change that and allowing voters themselves to introduce items like legalizing marijuana or codifying abortion access.
We have to change that.
In a Friday press conference embargoed until Monday, Governor Evers unveiled a budget proposal that will require the Republican-led legislature to take up whether or not Wisconsinites can propose new state laws on their ballots.
And they should give Wisconsinites the same opportunity that 26 other states have.
If the Joint Finance Committee includes Evers' proposal in the budget, the amendment will then need to be passed in 2 consecutive sessions before appearing on Wisconsinites' ballots for a vote.
I'm hopeful that as we ring in a new year in Wisconsin after fair maps, we will see a legislature that's more collaborative.
Governor Evers also committed to earmarking $800 million in his state budget for the UW system.
We can't continue to starve our system, whether it's higher education or UW system or the technical college system or a K-12 system. That's part of economic development.
In addition to Governor Evers' proposal, Democrats and Republicans will have to battle out how to spend the state's $4 billion surplus this budget session. For now, in Madison, Vanessa Kelson.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. To see the governor's full press conference, you can head on over to our website right now, WMTV15news.com.